online events. Every introvert now is saying, fuck, I'm so overwhelmed by all the online events, all the Zoom meetings I'm being invited to, that I didn't want to attend either. And so I just have to find excuses to turn those down. And as an introvert, I've cycled through a lot of different emotions. There's times I've been lonely and sad. Then there have been times I'm like, this is great. I don't need anyone else. Like this morning, I went running through the park, and I stopped, looked around at all the trees, and heard the birds chirping. And I was like, wow, I have all this to myself. I felt like that show Last Man on Earth with Will Forte. That's how I feel, basically. Or the Will Smith movie, I Am Legend. I like to imagine sometimes walking around that I'm like in this post-apocalyptic action movie, walking the empty city streets, my trusty dog by my side. It's this guy patrolling the streets like Will Smith in that movie. Can you go on mute, whoever that is?
You want it like this?
All right, let me mute the person. One second. Okay. All right, cool. But yeah, speaking of New York, I feel bad for New Yorkers right now. I lived in New York for many years before coming to LA. And when you live in New York, the deal is you accept the fact that you're going to live in a shitty apartment. You're going to live in a shitty, tiny shoebox of an apartment, but at least you've got the whole city outside your door, just waiting for you to enjoy, right? You have your pick of thousands of restaurants and bars and museums and shows. Now it's different living in New York. Now you're paying $4,000 a month to live in a small, dark little cave. And good luck keeping the coronavirus out of your apartment. I mean, people in New York literally dump their garbage bags out on the sidewalk in front of their buildings. I mean, New York is a cesspool of filth. Surgeons talk about how they need a sterile environment in an operating room. New York City is basically the opposite of that. It's not that clean. I wouldn't feel great about the situation there. And then what if you have roommates? I feel bad for people who agree to live with shitty roommates, because in New York, that's the thing. You're like, oh yeah, well, maybe he's like a finance bro. He's kind of a dickhead, kind of dumb, but I'm not going to be spending much time with him. I'm not going to see him. He works 100 hours a week. Yeah, sorry, man. Now you're stuck with that douchey finance guy.
What's up?
7. You're trapped now in a shitty New York apartment with a horrible finance bro who won't talk about interest rates and bond yields. It's not a good situation. So I for one, glad I got out of New York before all this went down. People have been talking about food. Food is a big issue, big topic in everyone's minds. Everyone's terrified there's going to be no food left at the supermarket. Like the nation's food supply is just going to grind to a halt, and we're all going to be left to become hunter-gatherers like our Neanderthal ancestors. And people are worried about putting on weights. People talk about the quarantine 15, and that's definitely me. I don't know about you guys, but does anyone else have any weird cravings when they're stuck at home all day? Like for me, my eating habits have gone way downhill since being cooped up in my room. I've been eating a lot of pasta, a lot of Girl Scout cookies, a lot of peanut butter and jelly, mac and cheese pizza. Yeah, that's where you put mac and cheese on top of pizza, and eat it all together. And I mean, I went from being a relatively healthy guy, kind of sticking to a keto paleo diet, and now I eat like I'm a college student with the munchies. I mean, it's a little rough. And it's nice that we can still order food delivery. You can still get any kind of food delivered to your door, so that's nice. But now it takes twice as long, and nobody knows what's safe to eat. I mean, if you get hot food, you're supposed to throw it in your microwave or in your oven to kill any germs. And if you get fresh produce, you're supposed to wash it with soap or spray it with bleach. And people are they don't know what to do when it comes to food. And then there's cooking. Like I like to cook, but coming from New York, nobody in New York knows how to cook, and everybody is scrambling to take cooking lessons. Apparently, traffic to cooking websites is hitting record highs. Google search results for cooking videos is at all-time levels. And people in LA, they love talking about supplements. If you live anywhere near Venice, California, people can't stop talking about herbal supplements and herbal remedies. Um, you know, my friend in Venice will be like, yeah, check this out. I got my echinacea and my elderberry, my zinc lozenges. You taking zinc lozenges? I'm like, what? Like zinc lozenges. You got to take that shit, bro, for the immune system. I pop 2 of these babies every morning, a couple zinc lozenges, dissolve them in the back of my tongue, wash it down with some turmeric bone broth. My immune system's strong as an ox, bro. That's what people are like in some people are like in Venice. Let's see. I forgot to edit this part. Okay, grocery shopping. So we've all had that experience, you know, before the shelter-in-place regulations went down, where we'd go to the grocery store, and you know, you want to be there, and you want to see food on the shelves, you want things to be normal, but you're kind of afraid of other people in the store. You know, like maybe you see a nice young man holding the door for you, but you look at him kind of suspiciously. Like, does he look like someone who's washed his hands? Like, I don't know, can I trust him? And in those first few days, if you wanted toilet paper or hand sanitizer, forget about it. Like, people cleaned out the shelves. You know, some people called it panic buying, but people were really shaken about this whole toilet paper shortage. And understandably, like when you think about it, is there anything more un-American than an empty shelf, which is not what we're used to seeing at the store? And people have been talking about this book called The Plague by Albert Camus, and he writes that in times of pestilence, we learn that there is more in men to admire than to despise. And I want that to be true. I really do. But then you see people hoarding toilet paper and face masks, and you realize, no, I hate everyone. It's not a good situation. But you know, I'm glad that we have ways to entertain ourselves. I was thinking it could be a lot worse. You know, like if this happened back when I was a kid in the 80s, we would have been bored out of our freaking minds. I mean, now we've got Spotify, we've got YouTube, and I just think music is so important right now. My friends made a playlist for the quarantine. You know, it's called Quarantunes, the best songs to listen to while you're stuck at home, all alone, and you know, you're just longing for human touch and human connection. And here are a few of my favorite tracks. This is the quarantine playlist. So some of the tracks are Don't Stand Too Close to Me by The Police. You Can't Touch This, MC Hammer. Dancing with Myself by Billy Idol. But you know, it really makes me feel better listening to that playlist. You know, instead of complaining about being lonely, you know, maybe we should all just try to write a hit song about it, about this new experience. Like I guarantee you, Taylor Swift right now, she's writing a new song about breaking up with some guy who didn't practice social distancing. He didn't flatten the curve, and that's why she had to end things. You know somewhere Taylor is writing that song, and it's going to be a big hit. So I'm almost done, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. But first, I want to say, you know, on a serious note, you know, one nice thing about this awful situation is I think it really reminds us that we're all in this together. You know, we're all in the same glass house, and anytime there's a tragedy, you know, people really bond together afterwards. It happens after 9/11 when I was in New York, and it'll happen here. It's going to be really hard for us. It's going to be really hard for a lot of our friends and family, maybe for a long time, but we will get through this. And I think there's going to be an opportunity for us to come out of things even better. I think there's going to be an opportunity for people to take a nicer stance towards our neighbors, towards our friends, towards our community. And I think it's a chance to really show the world and really be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. So I really believe this can be our finest hour right now, if we want it to. I think we can come out of this happier, healthier, better human beings. I really think that can happen for us. So before we wrap up the show, I just want to share an alert that I just got on my phone. This is breaking news, and I know Tatiana will appreciate this if Tatiana's still on the line. It's breaking news just in from CNN that Trump has announced that toilet paper is now the official U.S. currency. That's right, toilet paper is replacing the dollar, and it's going to be known as Buttcoin. So that's it. That's all I got. Thanks, guys. You've been a great audience. I love you all. Thank you so much for coming out to support the show.
Well done, Zoller.
And now, you guys can all unmute yourselves, and if there are any questions or comments or anything, now's your time. What do you think, guys? What's on your minds?
Nice job, Dan.
Thanks, Jeff.
That was really cute. That was so sweet. Thanks for hosting.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Ariel.
Yeah. How's LA like? What's the vibe like?
It's quiet. You know, that there's still people. I mean, downtown Santa Monica is totally dead. Everything's shut down. But there's still people out by the beach in Palisades Park, people walking their dogs. I walked by Jim Carrey this morning on my run. He had a big bushy beard. He was walking his dog, so that made me feel a little better. If Jim Carrey can keep going on with life as normal, life as usual, that's a good sign. So, you know, just the simple pleasures in life. You know, we can't go out to restaurants and bars, but I feel like as long as we have, you know, food and a bed to sleep in and nature and places we can get exercise and keep our sanity, that's enough.
Yeah.
I think somebody from Bali wanted to tell a quick joke.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You got something for us, Keish?
Yeah, if that was okay. You know, I'm also like inspired by your whole comedian journey, Dan. I'm trying to pivot maybe out of my life as well. So, you know, just the other day, I actually was out with some friends and I told a coronavirus joke, and you know, didn't go over so well, but eventually everyone got it.
Yeah, you know, people talk about comedy, how stuff is too soon, but I feel like, you know, when you have fucked up situations, like that's when you need comedy the most. Like comedians, in a way, they're like the philosophers of our time. They're the ones that you count on to kind of make sense of just crazy, absurd situations. So I've been watching more comedy than ever, personally, on YouTube and podcasts.
Yeah. I want to say two things real quick. One, I think like as this progresses and stuff, you can almost make like a comedy miniseries like week to week, because we're all gonna have amazing experiences, like, or we're just gonna have like just like out of this world surreal experiences to share. Like when I was at Rite Aid yesterday, is picking up a few things for family that we didn't have and seeing what was left. I was wearing an N95 mask, and people were like talking like, "Oh, where do you think he got that mask?" Like, "Oh, we heard it's sold out everywhere. You think we should offer him some money for it?" Like, you would never think that would be happening if everyone's like, "Wow, nice mask, bro." But like, "Oh, who cares about your
mask, bro?"
else?
Yeah, you're totally right. This is the best time to start a new web series. I mean, there's so much just material because the world is so different. And even if like your video quality is shitty because you're just using your iPhone, like, you know, no one's going to be having like fancy camera crews and, you know, fancy film sets anytime soon. So, you know, kind of levels the playing field a little bit.
Exactly. And on a more serious note, I heard from a friend today, there was like a TED Talk put on by Bill Gates. I think it was like 2015 or 16. That was described almost this exact pandemic that's going on right now and everything that would happen. And then I heard it's like pretty spot on. So recommend. I haven't checked it out myself yet, but I heard
very accurate, scary accurate. You should listen to that for sure. It's only like 5 minutes. It's only like 5 minutes. It was pretty wild.
Okay.
When was it made?
I think it was 2016, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I got it.
2015.
2015. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll plop it in this if anybody wants to watch it.
Awesome.
We have some comments here. I just noticed that. I was too wrapped up in my little, let's see, Dan, longtime listener, first time caller, Dan Ruminik. What's up, buddy? Do you want to say hi? We had everybody go around and introduce themselves. Do you want to say where you're dialing